Sonic Generations came out in 2011 for the Xbox 360, PS3, PC, and Nintendo 3DS. With a newer version of the game on our final horizon, today we are taking a look at Generations and comparing all the 2011 releases to see what's different between them. I would have gotten on this sooner, but I was having trouble with a few things I needed for this video. I knew that to make this video, I needed a better way to capture PS3 footage, as the only way was using the PS3 cable for the original Elgato game capture, and since it's old, only one audio channel is outputting. So I tried to get an HDMI splitter to bypass the HDCP protection the PS3 is known for, but not all HDMI splitters do this. In fact, most of them guarantee to have HDCP, but eventually I got one that works for my purposes, ensuring I can get the best footage possible for my PS3. Problem solved! Except another problem cropped up, because out of the blue, my 360 copy of Generations stopped working. It's a second-hand copy with some scratches, but worked perfectly fine before, now kept crashing consistently outside Green Hill, leading me to resort to something I never thought I'd have to do. Honestly, how does polishing a disc with toothpaste fix its scratches? And well, it kinda works, but there's still parts of the disc it struggles to read, so I anticipate to encounter future crashes. Spoiler alert from the future, I did! Multiple times! Now distractions aside, let's get going. Sonic Generations is built on top of Sonic Unleashed. 2008 Sonic Unleashed is an insanely impressive looking game for the PS3 and 360. Reason being, it's unnecessarily high poly 3D models for the standards of PS3 and 360, and its environment-based lighting system, which is impossible to do on a PS3 and 360. But the devs did have some workarounds for that. This video from Cifesk goes much more in depth, and it's a fascinating watch. And since there are significant hardware differences between the 360 and the PS3, I mean, have you met the PS3? Devs had no idea what to do with this silly thing half the time. Both versions of Sonic Unleashed had slight differences, which I point out in my Sonic Unleashed videos. Some examples include the PS3 version having an unlocked frame rate and a lower resolution, and the 360 version having slightly different lighting and its FPS locks to 30. Sonic Generations is considerably more optimized for the 360 and PS3 than its predecessor. The lighting and rendering is a little simplified, textures and models are downscaled. Like, wow, all the 3D models reused from Unleashed are downscaled in their poly count a lot, and they still don't look any different at all. There was just so many polygons in Sonic's socks and cuffs alone. No wonder adding fur on top of that made it feel pain. Tails used to blend naturally into his rear, now they're just separate objects that kind of clip through. But with all these graphical compromises aside, Sonic Generations is still an incredibly beautiful game, possibly one of the most beautiful in the whole series. In Generations, Sonic's controls and handling feel a lot more optimized, and the homing attack has been moved from the boost button to the jump button. Rail switching was previously on the shoulder buttons, but is now on the control stick, and while Sonic previously had a longer blue motion trail behind him, it's mostly been removed. All of the above can be restored by modifying lines of code, but now are all options in the mod loader. So enough of the technical build-up, let's get right into it. So right off the bat, unlike Unleashed, the 360 and PS3 versions of Generations are practically identical, to an extent. The colors feel more vibrant on PS3, but more muted on 360, while the textures look cleaner on 360 but blurrier on PS3. Both play at 30 FPS, and in some instances where there's a lot of objects and effects on screen, the game will chug for a brief moment, which doesn't happen at all in the PC version. The biggest example of this is on the mission Drill Baby Drill, where you stomp down stacks of boxes. Fine on PC, but super choppy on consoles. The PC version was ported by Devil's Details and plays at 60 FPS and even at 4K resolutions. Actually, on that note, as hard as it may be, I'll have to remove all the mods and use a fresh vanilla install for the sake of this video. I need to talk about the base game as it released, and not everything the fans made it into. But I will bring up anything noteworthy. We take fixes from Sonic GMI and Hedge Mod Manager for granted, but they provided performance and graphical fixes to the rendering, processing, bloom, in-game effects, and fixes the missing quick-step sound effect. A comprehensive list from PCgamingwiki will be linked in the description. The console versions retain speedrun glitches from Sonic Unleashed, including M-Speed, D-Speed, and QSS, however they are seemingly patched out on the PC version. Some of the game's cutscenes are pre-rendered in engine like those of Sonic Colors, therefore cutscene exclusive environments like the field where Sonic's birthday party is held and the inside of the final boss gate do not exist in the game's files. Being pre-rendered video files, these cutscenes are actually pretty compressed, and the Xbox 360 having inferior video encoders than the PS3, the video looks by far the worst, more crunchy and pixelated. The PS3 version looks a lot cleaner, running off a Blu-ray disc, and the PC version, I have no idea if it's better or worse. The PC version appears to have better quality environment lighting, and the shadows appear to have a higher resolution than on console, and the same can be said about reflective mirror-like surfaces. On the PS3, motion blur is seemingly disabled. The Xbox and PC versions share the same UI, as PC games have always used Xbox controllers or controllers for PC with Xbox button layout. But by 2011, PS3 controllers were not natively supported on PC, unlike today where PS4, PS5, and even Nintendo Switch Pro controllers can be paired natively to your PC, and Steam has built-in profiles for all of them which devs take advantage of now. For example, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, depending on what you're inputting with, can on the fly switch its UI icons for all the controller layouts including keyboard. Something that wasn't really a thing at the time of Sonic Generations, so you won't be getting PlayStation buttons on PC without a mod. Said buttons would have been taken from the PS3 version of the game, as the square button on the boost meter will immediately grab your attention. Although something I can't stand about the PC version is if your controller is unplugged or something disrupts its signal to the PC, you can't use it again without closing and restarting the game, even if you plug it back in. Trust me, the struggle is real coming from someone who plays PC games with a second-hand USB 360 controller with a bad cable that I had to hot glue in place. Thankfully, HedgeMod Manager the mod loader has a code that fixes this. The loading screens take a different amount of time based on the version, with swapping between Sonics on the hub world being instantaneous on PC, while the consoles take a few moments at first. When loading levels, as expected, the PC version is the fastest, only taking 2 seconds, while the Xbox and PlayStation versions take quite a while longer. Yeah, a little longer than what's pleasant for this video, but this is in real time. With them consoles, you tend to just sit there and think, and now. And now. No, there we go. In the cutscene after the Perfect Chaos boss, the environment tries to load in real time. On PS3 you can see the lighting quickly change, on 360 you can see part of Chemical Plant pop in, but on the PC version, for whatever reason, neither Green Hill or Chemical Plant loads fast enough. The same thing happens in the rival battle against Shadow. When a modern Sonic level starts on the PC version, the music starts immediately. Whilst on the console versions, once the level starts, there is no music until after the words "Ready" and "Go" appear on screen, and the music starts the same moment the player is given control of Sonic. I kinda like that a bit better, it's a nice touch. If you ever pause and restart the level, the music will start immediately as it does on PC. Sonic Generations has a bonus Casino Night Pinball minigame that was included as a pre-order exclusive DLC. In 2016, the digital versions of the game had a significant price drop, and the Steam version would now be bundled with the Casino Night DLC if you didn't already have it, downloadable for free. On 360, I've never gotten as far in this game as I did for this video, and already seem to have the Casino Night DLC, and I genuinely do not remember downloading it separately. And on PS3, well, as you can see, I don't have it. There was a download code included in the case, but it seems to have already been used by the time I got it. I went to check the PlayStation Store, and this game has downloadable themes, videos, but no Casino Night DLC. On the console versions, both Classic and Modern Sonic have a little cutscene before the minigame begins, which is entirely absent on the PC version. I don't know where it is, but it ain't here. The pinball game starts immediately. There is a mod that restores this. And on the 3DS version, there is no pinball minigame, you just get an entire full-on level of Casino Night Zone with the same music. And of course, the biggest change between the console versions and the PC version is that it has a missing feature. In the PC version, coming here will show an empty space. However, on 360 and PS3, there is a Sega Mega Drive. That's Genesis for you Americans, in case you didn't know it's called Mega Drive at the rest of the world. Alone, it doesn't do anything, but going to the skill shop, you can purchase a Sega controller and bring it back to the Mega Drive, which unlocks Sonic 1. Oh, thank goodness, I needed one of these! Now you can just full-on play the original Sonic the Hedgehog within Sonic Generations. For one act, before you decide halfway through the special stage you're bored of this and would rather just continue playing Sonic Generations instead of the entirety of Sonic 1 that you have at your disposal. How weird is this, having the very first game in the series within what was at the time the most recent game of the series, or just in general having an older game within a current one? That wasn't exactly unheard of back then. The original Donkey Kong was in DK64, the original Metroid was unlockable in its own GBA remake, Metroid Zero Mission, and Animal Crossing just had several NES games within it. This is something that would never happen today. If the Sega Mega Drive and controller were in Sonic X Shadow Generations, I guarantee instead of letting you play Sonic 1, it would just give you an ad for Sonic Origins and then boot you to the store page. Come on, tell me I'm wrong. Now, for whatever reason, this is entirely absent in the PC release. Now, editing a few bytes of memory in the save file restores the Mega Drive controller, but you can't interact with it at all. The HUD for interacting with it doesn't seem to do anything. I've also heard playing the 360 version of Generations through backwards compatibility on Xbox Series X or Series S results in Sonic 1 playing really poorly, which could be related to why it didn't appear on PC for emulation compatibility reasons, but that's just a theory. On the topic of backwards compatibility of the Xbox One S, Xbox One X, or Series X or S, come on, get your naming conventions together, Microsoft. On Xbox One X, the game has been updated to play at 4K with better performance and super crisp, less compressed textures. And now, just like the PC version, music starts when the level starts. Seeing it side by side with 360 is night and day. Just look at the grass texture. And when being played on Xbox Series X, 60 FPS is introduced. And I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't just look comparable to the PC version, I think it actually looks better. I should also note the PS3 version of Sonic Generations can be played on both PS4 and PS5 via PS Now, however PS3 games cannot run natively on PS4 or PS5 hardware because PlayStation would rather do anything else than make a PS3 emulator. So PS Now only streams the game to your system from PlayStation servers and has no graphical or performance improvements over being played on an actual PS3. Moving on, the 3DS version. The 3DS version, rather than being a port of the same game on all other platforms, was built from the ground up by Dimps, who had previously developed the Sonic Advance trilogy and the Sonic Rush games, but have also been responsible for making counterparts to games made by Sonic Team for weaker hardware such as the PS2 and Wii version of Sonic Unleashed. The 3DS version of modern Sonic plays very similar to how Sonic plays in the DS version of Sonic Colors. Still 2D gameplay, but along fully 3D modeled environments. Meanwhile, classic Sonic is a perfect translation of the Mega Drive Genesis 2D gameplay. In fact, it's even more accurate than on the console and PC version in terms of controls and physics. For instance, in that version, rolling will slow you to a standstill, while here it is as it should. Going down slopes carries your momentum and shoots you back into the air, something that required the use of the overpowered spin dash button in the other version. Missions on the console and PC version are spread throughout the hub world that can grant you skills and music, while on 3DS, missions are a mode located on the game's main menu, and completing them grants you unlockables, which are normally gained by collecting red rings in levels on the PC and console version. Green Hill is here as normal, however, every other level in the game is different to the console PC version. Chemical Plant is replaced with Casino Night as mentioned earlier, Sky Sanctuary with Mushroom Hill. Act 1 of each is a full recreation of their original visuals and layout from the Mega Drive Genesis versions in 3D, while Act 2 of the levels takes elements from the original Act 2 layouts and stretches them out to accommodate the boosting and grind rails for modern Sonic with newer interactive segments and dynamic camera angles. Speed Highway is replaced with Emerald Coast and roughly represents its Sonic Adventure counterpart, and upon gaining access to this level, Classic Sonic is granted the homing attack. In the console PC version, Classic Sonic can have it enabled as an optional skill, while it can't be disabled here on 3DS. Classic Sonic is just kinda stuck with it. I now dub thee Adventure Sonic! Can we get footage of the PC mod? Can you get the jokes just to get PC mod with Emerald Coast and Classic Adventure Sonic in 3D? City Escape is replaced with Radical Highway, which makes no sense at all because that's a Shadow level, not a Sonic level, and it's There's no Sonic Heroes level. Why? There's no level from 06 or Unleashed, but we have Water Palace from Sonic Rush. And for colors, replacing Planet Wisp is Tropical Resort. Act 1 is closer to the DS version, and Act 2 is closer to the Wii version, complete with Burst Wisp for Classic Sonic and Laser Wisp for Modern Sonic, both of which work the same as they did in the DS version, as opposed to the console version's Planet Wisp having Spikes for Classic and Rocket for Modern Sonic. Rival battles with Metal Sonic, Shadow, and Silver, instead of being dedicated boss battles in their own locations, are now races to the end of a level reusing themes and assets from some of the existing ones. As for the main boss fights, Death Egg Robot is replaced with Big Arm from Sonic 3, and the remix is absolutely epic. It's really cool to see things originally in 16-bit appear in full 3D, even if low poly. Perfect Chaos is replaced with a Bio Lizard? Sonic ever fought Biolizard? Again, this is a shadow boss, and oh shoot, is that the Emerald Shrine in the background? That's where Sonic should be! Although it's funny, Radical Highway and Biolizard have been in Generations since 2011, and we're about to see them again in Sonic X Shadow Generations. And Egg Dragoon is now Egg Emperor? Oh, there's the Sonic Heroes rep. Wait, how does that make sense either? The game's story plays out identically to the console PC version, and for the most part, the script is exactly word for word, but there's no voice acting as cutscenes are entirely presented in simplified text boxes with 3D models of the characters on either side of the screen emoting in time with the text. Feels weird seeing the very same sentences without their voices, which they could have used since they were already recorded for the other version. Heck, I'm surprised they didn't just compress and use recordings of the cutscenes on the PC and console version like they did in the Wii version of Sonic Unleashed or the 3DS version of Lost World, especially for the final boss prelude, which isn't that engaging and would have been more meaningful to see Sonic's friends show up to support because they are entirely absent from the rest of the game, altering the game's opening cutscene. Now Sonic gets here before everyone else does, so Tails just spoils the surprise? What the hell, Tails? There are other alterations for the levels and bosses that are different to this game's counterpart, which makes sense, but then there's some unnecessary additions, like a cutscene where Sonic teaches his younger self how to do the homing attack before Emerald Coast. Another is where Tails has the idea to modify Sonic's shoes to make them lighter by 30%, and that gives him the stomp ability? What the fuck? In the console PC version, the Chaos Emeralds are acquired throughout your progress of the game by either beating rivals or going through the story. In the 3DS version, however, each Chaos Emerald is tied to a stage. Huh, I guess that's why there's 2 less, instead of 9 or 7. After beating both Act 1 and Act 2 of a zone, you'll unlock the special stage, and it's exactly like the ones from Sonic Heroes. And when Sonic gets an emerald, the screen becomes stretched for no random reason, just like it does in Sonic Frontiers. How weird is that? The final boss is very interesting. The Time Eater's design differs ever so slightly, and without all its glowing smog, you can actually appreciate the mechanical aspects of its design more. For the most part, the boss fight is the same in both versions. The Time Eater swaps between 2D and 3D, and you fight as both Sonics, classic or modern, taking the lead for 2D and 3D respectively, to get an opening to attack the Time Eater. Same setup, however, very different execution. And because of this, I think the 3DS's final boss is actually a lot better than the console PC version. On the console PC version, you can freely switch between 2D and 3D and their respective Sonics at any moments, regardless of what the Time Eater is doing. Sometimes it will chill in 3D, then randomly shift over to 2D, and then back whenever it feels like it. And you have to pursue it in either. But on the 3DS version, both the player and the Time Eater shift from 2D to 3D in phases whenever you land a hit on the Time Eater. In 2D on 3DS, you have 3 directional movements similar to Doomsday Zone in Sonic 3 and Knuckles or Egg Reverie in Sonic Mania, allowing you to easily avoid attacks and move in on an opening to attack it back. On console PC, you're always boosting forward in an attempt to catch up, and it is incredibly difficult to move. Your stick inputs feel like you have very little influence on your movement regardless of whether you're boosting or not. On the 3DS version, in 3D, modern Sonic moves just as he does in Sonic Unleashed. When boosting, you can only move forwards in the direction of the boss, but you have full control of your aim, and movement is so quick and fluid as you race towards the boss while collecting rings, evading projectiles, and you even have a manual dodge move to avoid direct attacks. While in comparison, 3D on console PC is significantly less interactive. It's just boosting forward, it's very slow, and you have very little influence on your direction. You can move a little here, you can move a little there, just keep moving forward, till eventually you catch up to the Time Eater, and grab rings just before you run out, assuming you can actually see them as they spawn. On 3DS, when you reach the Time Eater, you can dodge to move around it as it attacks, leaving its core open for you immediately to charge into. On console PC, just try to slowly move out of the way of its attacks, and eventually, when you're close enough, the game automatically guides you towards its core so you can attack it by, surprise, surprise, continuing to hold the boost button like you've been doing this entire time. In the 3DS version, with each alternating phase, the battle feels like it's progressing, as the Time Eater keeps using new attacks and ramping up its previous ones, which are more engaging too. The more damage you do, the more you can actually see its core cracking. Unlike the 3DS version, the console PC version has team-up attacks. In 3D, you can charge and shoot classic Sonic like a projectile and bounces off large pieces of debris from previous levels that weren't going to hit you anyway, and you can't even hit the Time Eater with it. While in 2D, you can charge and launch modern Sonic as a very slow-moving beam of energy who can't seem to actually do anything, and just randomly stops. And on top of that, during the entire fight, all the supporting characters never shut up for more than 5 seconds. I swear, you don't get a moment to think without someone saying, "Watch out, Sonic! You can do this, Sonic! Hey, that looks like a homing shot!" It never stops, and it drives me mad! And that's every 2011 version of Sonic Generations. The 3DS version is often overlooked and dismissed as the inferior version of the game, but it genuinely has a lot that's special to it, and all its remixes are featured in the game's complete soundtrack. As for the main versions of the game, I find the minor differences fascinating. The PC version feels so buttery smooth to play, and the user-created content via modding is virtually endless. And after 3 back-to-back playthroughs of this game start to finish, there is so much I appreciate about this game much more than before. Sonic Team's artists translating 16-bit sprites into modern detailed 3D environments. Every level has so much to look at, even in the backgrounds. In Green Hill you can see more caves and bridges and loopy-loops. In City Escape you can see so much more of the streets and roads. In Speed Highway you can see so much in the buildings like offices, gyms, and hotel lobbies. All this extra detail you may never notice as you're speeding by that the environment artists didn't even need to include, but doing so adds so much depth and makes these locations feel so real and alive. There are even details that relate to and reference things from the games these levels are from. Running down the skyscraper in Speed Highway, there's a sunrise on the horizon as it's dawn when you exit the building in Sonic Adventure. The emerald you get from Shadow is
the damn 4th Chaos Emerald.
The music for classic City Escape has a part that slows down, revealing that part of the melody was reused from Endless Mine in Sonic 3. And its sped up segment uses an unused part of the song from Sonic Adventure 2's Trial Disc. And the modern version of the song features a segment from It Doesn't Matter, Sonic's theme in SA2, followed by a new verse never used before. In Sky Sanctuary, if you're too slow, an Egg Robo will activate a switch to bar your progress like Knuckles often did. Planet Wisp Act 1, you can see the egg pawns mining, and the generator is in the background. But when you finish Act 2, you're right next to where the generator cutscene takes place. And there's so much more than this. But I think what I appreciate most about Sonic Generations, and that I absolutely love, is its level design. I don't think a Sonic game's level design has been any more perfect before or since this game. Not only are they incredibly fun, but their simplicity is enough to teach younger or new players how to adapt. I let my cousin's 4-year-old play Modern Green Hill, which is a perfect opening level, and while he was struggling to figure out what to do at times, the level design would funnel him towards the right direction, learning to jump and move at the same time, to navigate towards a spring or pulley. The level doesn't necessarily hold your hand, and it doesn't punish you too harshly for not playing it well. In fact, everything that happens serves as a lesson to learn on what to do better next time. And sure enough, he made it to the end of the level on his own without my help or prior experience, simply because of how Green Hill is designed. But it ain't just an easy level for newbies. The more you master the game's controls, the more you want to challenge yourself, and the more that happens, the more you will keep discovering new ways to play those levels. Playing skillfully rewards you with more pathways that depend on your reflexes, quick thinking, and even your creativity, like using the stomp to destroy this bridge. And taking shortcuts in every level is like this. In Chemical Plant, instead of following the path laid out for you, a quickly timed jump and a boost can skip an entire section. In Sky Sanctuary, you can choose to jump off the zipline and homing attack to another one below you. In Speed Highway, taking a leap of faith lets you find another path to boost into. And even at the start of the level, if you're quick enough, you can grab onto the helicopter to hitch a ride. I swear, I've been playing this game for years and I'm still discovering new things I've never seen before, like this area in Seaside Hill. Sonic Generations is just a living, breathing love letter to the Sonic series and gaming itself. And I look forward to seeing what new surprises they add to it in Sonic X Shadow Generations real soon. So, until then, stay tuned and stay awesome. See ya.